Welcome to the Quality of Mind podcast, where you can explore the pioneering and game-changing understanding that unlocks the secret sauce to more productivity, peace, and potential. If you're fed up with the conventional echo chamber to personal development and human potential, and if you want to be part of the new breeders of leaders and entrepreneurs, come and explore the Four Psychology approach, enabling sustainable, wide-ranging transformation in every aspect of life and work, for exponential, not just marginal gains. Welcome to the Quality of Mind Transforming Business podcast series. And today's conversation is with Katrijn, who's a very regular to the show. But this is a kind of slightly different episode, I think. And oh wow, the potential for this is huge. Because what we're going to talk about is the development and evolution of AI with regards to, well, at a meta level, helping humanity be a better place and our own individual well-being and human potential, but also about how that's going to help with coaching and particularly direct inquiry. So, Katrijn, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
If anyone hasn't heard of you, which would be very surprising if they're regular to this show, just give 30 seconds on you, and then just give us 30 seconds on why you think this is such a juicy topic for us to talk about.
Yeah, well, I guess what I do now, or what I'm obsessed with, is helping people see that we are not actually separate selves, and the freedom and the joy that comes with that. Because obviously, just to see that is boring, but there's a whole bunch of good stuff that comes from seeing that. And the reason I think AI is so fantastic in that whole picture is that it is an ultimate tool to help us understand no self, or that we actually ultimately are not a separate self.
Yeah, so AI is the ultimate tool for the essential realization. So we talk about seeing no self as the essential realization, the ultimate hack to what everyone wants. And AI could well be the absolutely perfect tool to do that.
Yes, better than a human.
Better than a human. And that's what we're going to get into. So with all the implications for society as a whole, for individuals, and for the coaching professional. So this is going to be relevant if you're just a human being in general, and maybe particularly if you're a coach or interested in coaching. So let's get into it. Fascinating. So one of the things that's starting to happen now is applying AI to the coaching arena. Now, for years, there's been the attempt to try and automate coaching through a sort of more question and answer based learnt model, but it was kind of had to be taught very specifically what to say, formula driven, questionnaire based, etc., etc. And I was involved in a few of those years ago, and it wasn't really very good at all. But of course, with AI coming along, it's got the ability to completely revolutionize that and do the job of what a human coach does at the moment. It's potentially huge and fascinating. I think that one of the challenges with AI coaching your pocket, is because people are coming at it with the lower barrier to entry, more casual, less investment, they're not going to wait around for the magic so much, right? Because it's not like they've invested thousands of pounds and I'm going to do this coaching thing. So you need to be giving little dollops of magic. And by magic, I've defined it as kind of a little realization or a little piece of inspiration, which comes inside out. It comes from the client. The client's gone, oh, yeah. Either something they've realized and seen or something they feel moved towards. So it's looking at the process. Whereas in human-based coaching, you don't necessarily need to have that magic happening all the time, because you would frame it differently. With the AI coach, with the coach in your pocket, how do you give them, especially when they're first starting, how do you give them little dollops of magic? Otherwise, they'll just put it down and then it gets resigned to the load of apps on your phone you never use.
Yeah, but I think we'll soon be at the phase where the bot auto-adjusts. So no one has to orchestrate that anymore, because it just adjusts to, is there enough magic? No? Okay, let me
up the magic. Yeah. And that's the unknown at the moment. How clever will it be? But then at some point, is there going to be just like, actually don't prompt it, just tell it.
Yeah.
and then it works it out.
Yeah, it learns to prompt itself.
I think for the direct inquiry piece, it's actually easier
Yes,
because it is more formulaic.
it has to be.
It's simpler.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's less you in it.
Yes, it's even better. That's the cool thing. And that's what I think AI is. I mean, the fact that AI is selfless.
Yeah.
And
it's
has
perfect for doing direct inquiry.
Yes, going to get rid of the whole need for any form of spiritual teaching or any person trying to make you see something.
Yeah. Then I think what's interesting is, so for that bit, it is absolutely perfect for doing that for the reason you just said, because it's selfless. So it can't have any stuff in there. And because it is so selfless, you're going to respond to it in a more selfless way, in a way, because it's not trying to impress you. Now, where will be interesting is how that gets entwined, interspersed, wrapped around the rest of the coaching process, which is more, let's call it human.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the fascinating piece, really. So you're either going to have coaches using the AI direct inquiry bot for the AI direct inquiry bot bit as a tool, and then going back into human-based coaching, or the AI is just a lovely third-person companion to give you that extra mirror as you're coaching along, and it just points stuff out that you the coach hadn't spotted and you the coachee hadn't spotted. So it's very exciting.
But it gets really interesting when you start thinking in multiple bots for multiple phases of the process.
Yes, absolutely, because it could do it all. So if it's able to have that flexibility, then it's going to be fantastic. But we've just dived into the sort of, the direct inquiry piece and how it'll be very good at that. But let's just step back a bit in case people don't really know what that means. And let's just talk about the relevance of direct inquiry, and then maybe why we think AI would be so good at it. Let's just talk about relevance for a moment. Some people listening to this podcast might already absolutely know the answer to this question. Why are we so excited, passionate about the idea that more people could access something that would help them have direct inquiry? What's the benefit to them and society, humanity, the planet?
Well, I think there's a very easy argument to make that all the things that are wrong with the world and that we're suffering under are due to belief in I'm a separate ego and I need to get things for myself, and the separation and the selfhood. The more people who would see that that is a construct, that is something that we learn over time and are conditioned to believe, but is not necessarily ultimate truth, that would remove much of the suffering.
So in a nutshell, you'd have more peace, contentment, well-being, creativity, love on the inside, and more harmony, alignment, and collaboration on the outside collectively. So in spiritual words, sometimes people talk about this awakening thing. So if we were to de-spiritualize that word, what's the shift that can happen once people see the true nature of what we are, of the self? What's another way of describing awakening without using that kind of language?
Well, I think you just hit it with the peace and the ease, because the tension that we feel and the stress that we're under is because we feel this separate identity needs to be shored up, or it has to be, first of all, kept intact to manipulate or try to manipulate reality and everything that's happening to us in order to make sure that we're okay. And if this, I need to do something so that I'm okay, if that disappears, whatever it's all fine. It's not necessarily fine. I mean, it's sometimes painful and horrible, but it's not a problem to solve. And it's definitely not a problem that I need to solve by doing something bad to you.
Yeah, and it doesn't damage what I am. Even if it's not fine, it's uncomfortable and horrible, it doesn't damage anything. It just feels like that. I think the way I try and sum it up is all our lack of resourcefulness, flow, suffering comes from one thing, and that is a resistance to the what's going on. So there's just what's going on, the isness, the happening. And if there's resistance to that, then we lose our flow, our resourcefulness, and we suffer. The only thing that can cause resistance is this self-identification, this conviction that it's happening to a separate me.
Yeah.
And that self-identification is what causes resistance. So if we don't have the self-identification so much, then we don't have so much resistance, and then we have more flow and peace, contentment, creativity, all that kind of stuff. So it's really, at one level, it's so simple, as you say, that we've got so conditioned to think we are this separate self. We've deified this self, that there's a me here and a world out there, and this me has to go and protect and seek to be okay. That causes a self-identification, that causes resistance to the isness, and then we suffer. Get rid of that, and it's just such a different way to live.
We look back to how this, for some of us, this all started with the concept of spiritual teachers doing inquiry. And that had this whole dynamic of, oh, this person up on the podium.
The guru.
Yeah. Knows something more than I do, and this person is going to enlighten me, and I will get something if I sit here long enough and listen. Then was the guided people like you and me, very simple inquiry, everyone will just guide you. And now we have, well, there's not even a self, there's not even a human involved anymore.
It's so interesting that, because you and I have talked for a few years about democratizing and open sourcing and making inquiry less esoteric and all about anything spiritual. It's nothing to do with that at all. It just so happened to have sat in that space for a bit. What you've got at one end of the continuum is you sitting in an ashram with some kind of guru that you are lucky to be in the presence of, and you might deign to ask a question, but you better not ask a stupid question, because then you'll look silly in front of everyone. But what you really want to do is just interrogate the person on the inquiry. To the other end of the spectrum with a bot, which doesn't care who it is, has got no ego, it's not sitting next to a vase of flowers, it's not got nothing, you can't say anything wrong to it, you can't offend it, you can't impress it, nothing esoteric, nothing spiritual, it's just pure juice.
Yep.
In terms of what the inquiry for awakening is. So you've gone from almost one end, which is the completely kind of ritualized, fancy, esoteric, spiritual way of doing inquiry, to a bot just doing it so clean, so easy.
24/7.
20 at your leisure, in your own comfort. You haven't got to sit in a room with other people eating lentils. I love lentils, by the way. It's just making it so open source and democratic.
If I had had a direct inquiry bot 15 years ago, I think the whole process would have taken maybe a tenth of the time.
Yes, would have fast-tracked it.
So that's the really exciting part, is AI might actually be better, more effective than humans at guiding direct inquiry. And I'm just speaking about the direct inquiry piece now.
Yes.
Precisely because it is selfless. And you don't project an ego onto AI. Whereas even if you have a selfless guide, let's say this person is completely selfless, whatever that would mean, the one doing the inquiry would still project a self onto that person because that's how they're conditioned. So if I'm doing direct inquiry with a bot, I'm not going to project the concept of a separate self onto this bot. And then I'm noticing that it has the exact language capabilities that a self, that what I believe to be a separate self has. So I'm seeing in direct experience that all the thoughts, all the language manipulation, all the rational thinking and the deduction, and even soon the emotions and the feeling can be had by a selfless entity. So it's much easier to see that just because I can do all these things as a human doesn't necessarily prove that there is a self.
So the fact that the AI can so seamlessly mimic the human self shows us that the human self can't be as foundational as we thought.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It is sort of the ultimate mirror, and it's more perfect than another human to demonstrate this, because we don't automatically project this selfhood onto an AI. So I'm not saying that humans can't do direct inquiry. I mean, we do it all the time and it works. But there's something about a selfless bot that makes it sort of proves its own point.
And I think in a way, because this is such a different kind of way of looking at the human experience, the direct experience inquiry is such a different way of examining what's going on, because we're so taught to do it through concepts and constructs and learnt and nominalizations. That's what we're learned at school. That's what we're learned through society. It's a very different type of inquiry / conversation. So doing it with an AI bot helps is to mark that difference.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're having a conversation with a human, it's too easy to get into the habit of how you talk to a human.
Yes.
Right? Now, to mark this conversation or this inquiry out as a different thing, which is what it needs to be. I mean, it's not difficult. It's just not conventional. Having it with a bot makes it more different.
Yes. And so if you take, that's just looking at generalistic AI models that we have now, ChatGPT, Claude, and all of that. Even with those models as they are trained now and how the system's set up, you can have these type of direct inquiry conversations because you see the thought process and you notice over time, okay, this does not need a wet human biological body to create the illusion of a self. Oh, okay. Maybe my illusion of a self is just as illusory. So that's sort of stuff going on anyway. But then if you think about AI trained to ask questions, so to guide the inquiry, now it gets really exciting because this thing never gives up. I mean, I know when I do direct inquiry, I'm a human, I'm an ego. At some point, I'm like, oh, for God's sake, would you just finally just look?
Yeah.
Or we've been over this 15 times, and
Yeah.
and an AI is just, it has none of that.
It will stay what I would call pure.
Yeah.
It won't get distracted. It won't try and give concessions to try and help out the coachee because it feels like they're struggling or, oh gosh, they're really uncomfortable with this. Oh, I better chuck in a bone. It will just stay pure, direct, unencumbered with its own biases and projections. It won't have any of that. So it'll be cleaner, purer, and I guess more effective.
Yes.
Okay. So just making this a little bit more relevant and practical for people listening, well, what are some tangible things people might find interesting in what you've spotted and practical things that you've been doing with AI?
Yeah, so I think for those guiding people in the selfless, non-dual, whatever we want to call it, waking up as we called it before, AI is a super useful tool. At the very basic level, just any interaction with it it demonstrates that the whole capacity for language doesn't make you human.
Mm-hmm.
And so related to that, having a thought doesn't mean they are your thoughts, because AI has thoughts all the time. You could say it thinks in the sense of language is created and manipulated and put together. So without even thinking too much or reflecting on it too much, it's sort of like a general cultural demonstration now that the things that we thought were uniquely human are not. So Descartes, I think, therefore I am. Well, yeah. We're way past that now.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's something to get curious about. It could just be then, to sum this up, why we think this is so exciting is a lot of the world's problems, which are caused by self-identification, egoic behaviors, fighting over scarcity, lack of seeing what's truly available in human potential, which are causing all the problems in the world at a collective level in terms of not solving the climate quick enough, not having wars, or even our own individual mental health crises and anxieties and contemporary ailments like that, could be solved by this. So not a small thing.
Not a small thing, no, and it's already happening. We're in the middle of it. So.
Yeah. So I'll put some details in the show notes about what you're doing with your work on the non-dual and the creation of that. And obviously really fascinated to hear from people who want to reach out, who are curious about this. So thank you. So listeners, as usual, have fun being curious and catch you next time.
If you enjoyed listening to this podcast and want to know more, check out our website at qualityofmind.biz. And also feel free to reach out and leave us a review or a comment. Until next time, have fun being curious.